We are live at King's Cross Station in London to say happy birthday to the world's most famous train, the Flying Scotsman, celebrating 100 years on our railways.
Now, we're in for a treat this morning. You are, anyway. The most famous steam train of all time, celebrating 100 years on the tracks.
The Flying Scotsman has travelled 2.5 million miles and was the first locomotive to circumnavigate the globe. John is at King's Cross Station for us this morning ahead of a special weekend of events. And John, when I saw your name was on this story, I thought he's going to have the time of his life.
Yeah. How did you know me? You know me so well, don't you? What an amazing privilege it is, really, to sit here in the cab of the Flying Scotsman. The running joke with the loco, with the engine, with the train, however you'd like to describe it, is that it's a bit like Trigger's broom. Everything has been replaced over the last 100 years or so. And I was looking at the speedo, actually, because in 1934 it broke 100 miles per hour, the first steam loco to do that. But of course that's not the original speedo. That was in one of the cars just behind us here. We're at King's Cross, 170 years old, 170 years old itself. For the weekend. The train will be here for the weekend before going around the country over the next year to do its anniversary. It is, of course, steeped in history, and you would expect me, you would hope that I was about to this, wouldn't you? Roll VT.
The Flying Scotsman, one of the most famous of all steam locomotives, puffed impatiently, eager to be on her way to repeat history.
The name that eclipses any other in the history of steam and of railways remains as emotive today as in any time during its century-long history. The Flying Scotsman. She broke records and set pulses racing. The first to break the 100-mile-per-hour barrier in 1934 and to make the 400-mile journey from London to Edinburgh without stopping. Her speed saw her credited with delaying the inevitable takeover by diesel locomotives that was coming down the tracks.
The Flying Scotsman, Britain's best-known express, gives passengers a sight they haven't seen since 1941. Restaurant cars and railway kitchens are back again.
And as Britain adapted to post-war life, it was the Scotsman chosen to highlight the return of on-board kitchens, welcomed by passengers as this wholly unscripted exchange shows.
Have you enjoyed your lunch, sir?
I've enjoyed it very much indeed, thank you. It's a very pleasant change after about, 4 years of sandwiches?
She was taken around the world to showcase British engineering at its best, but often the business of running the Scotsman ran into the buffers. Her ownership changed hands several times. An extensive 10-year restoration costing more than £4 million was completed 6 years ago by the National Railway Museum to give the engine a new lease of life. These days, she tours the country's rail tracks, much to the delight of those who turn out in their droves to see her, if only for a few fleeting moments as the Scotsman flies by.
She even looks fast, you know, when you see it up close, those sleek lines you can imagine. And standing right next to its latest, its successor, if you like, the brand new LNER train over there. Much faster, of course, but I don't know, you'd rather travel on this one, wouldn't you? Nigel drove it in overnight, I think, didn't you? Sorry, Clive, I should say, Clive. How does she drive?
It's lovely, smooth. I was actually firing the other, there was somebody else doing the driving, okay. But I did the moving of the coal and making steam for it to get here.
And how do you drive her? Is it, you know, is it like a lot of old machinery? Sometimes they feel quite loose, and you need to sneak in a bit of that and put a bit of this and press that down and half, pull that.
There's a lot of maintenance to keep on top of. It's probably in the best condition it's ever been in. The interesting thing is learning the road, as the term is, actually knowing exactly where you're on the railway, whether you're going uphill, downhill, speed restrictions, where the signals are. There's an awful lot to learn and keep on top of while you're moving it along.
Yeah, I bet there is. And do you still get that? Do you get a thrill from being on board?
Always get a buzz from being near it on board and moving it. Yeah, certain pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. What a privilege. Sophie Borra, good morning to you. Railway historian up at the Railway Museum in York. we've got people turning out this morning, Sir, already. They'll turn out over the weekend. I've seen her out and about before, and the places are always packed. Why? Why is she such a famous loco even to this day?
I think it started from when Flying Scotsman was even made. It immediately ended up in the British Empire exhibition in Wembley in 24 and 25, and it became the kind of flagship of LNER. And I think even past those dates, every time it's been owned by someone else, there's been that kind of spark of enthusiasm. And when it was bought in 2004 for the National Collection, it then became a symbol of very much the nation, our engine. And it's lovely to see it at events like this today. And I think people feel that sense of ownership, that national ownership. And the National Railway Museum very much helps with that, preserves it, keeps it, brings it out, and it's going to be absolutely wonderful to see what it does over the next year.
We were talking earlier, I was saying that something that strikes me that's typically British about it is it's gone bust a couple of times in its history as well. Do you think that helps with the story?
I think, yes, it's very much that underdog thing, right? Like, you know, in the 60s when BR left it in the sidings, that was the beginning of, no, oh no, it's been left, what do we do with it now? And we need to save it. And the fact that we've had 2 Save Our Scotsman fundraisers says a lot. We want to save it, we want it back. And you're totally right, it's very much this kind of symbol of us and to keep it safe and to bring it back for the nation to enjoy.
Yeah, people are enjoying it already this morning, so early. Anthony, of course, good morning to you from the National Railway Museum up in York. This is your star attraction, I guess.
Very much so. I mean, people say that iconic is an overused word, but here we have an icon of the engineering age inside an icon of the civil engineering age. King's Cross Station, 170 years old, Scotsman, 100 years old. What's not to like?
And when people come to the museum, is it one of those things that when people come to the front desk, the first thing you do is they say, "Where's the Scotsman?" Pretty much so, as long as where are the loos. But, you know, Scotsman's here this weekend. It's celebrating industrial transport engineering heritage. I say to a lot of people, this is there with the London Taxi, the Routemaster bus, the Vulcan bomber. You know, October 2015, the Vulcan bomber flew for the last time. February 16, Flying Scotsman took up the mantle for mobile heritage on the go. And here it is here. We're hoping it'll inspire future generations for years to come, both at the museum, on heritage railways and out on the main line. So it's not just about the past, it's about looking to the future. And the fact that we can run this engine on Network Rail in its centenary year is really rather something. Yeah, that says something in itself, doesn't it? Folks, thank you very much indeed. Paul, follow me. We're just going to do one last toot, shall we? It's such a magical sound, the way it echoes around the 170-year-old King's Cross station as well. She will be going out around the country over the next year or so to celebrate her centenary, so you won't miss out. Just check the website for details. Talk to you later.
John, get yourself to that buffet car.
Yeah, I will for the sandwiches.
Oh, it's a great spectacle, isn't it? It's a great spectacle.
Watch that archive all day. It's beautiful.
Yeah.